Where do we sit?
Right here, in the front. Yeah.
While we're sitting, we can't be standing.
You can stand over here. We all stand together. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining also for their first career panel of the year. We have the honor of having 3 spectacular attorneys take time out of their days to join us, and I will be the moderator for today's event, so you can follow the PowerPoint for the following questioning. Before I begin, I think Mr. Sarkisian wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Bridget. I'm Simon Kirkland. I'm the chairman of the Armenian Bar Association, and I wanted to thank Bridget and Alexander for organizing this great event today. I wanted to tell you a couple of things, and I know Alexander's going to give you more details, but the Armenian Bar Association just held its mid-year meeting in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and there were a couple of important decisions made by the board. One of them is that the Armenian Bar Association has signed a memorandum of understanding with Artsakh University and Yerevan State University to establish a legal clinic in Stepanaker, Artsakh, and that's probably going to get started in a couple of weeks from now. It's on a fast track to get going, and the purpose of the clinic is to help everyday citizens with their issues in, with, for example, administrative matters with government, filling out applications and getting basic advice on how to navigate issues with the government. So that's in conjunction with our one of our members there, Ruben Malikian. He's the ombudsman of Artsakh, and he's also the human rights defender of Artsakh. And so we've been in talks with him for the past year, and this program is getting underway. In addition, Mr. Malikian has helped us to organize an internship program at the Ombudsman's office in Artsakh, and that's going to be for students. So you'll be hearing announcements about that coming up. If any of you are interested, that's something you could apply for in the coming months. I don't have a date yet when that internship program is beginning, but it's going to be a very great way for you to help on the ground in Artsakh, as well as get some experience dealing with clients and learning about the issues that face Artsakh, challenges they face as they attempt to get state recognition in the international community as a state. And then the last thing I wanted to tell you briefly is that this week we've awarded the Armenian Bar Association legal scholarships. So in a few months from now, we're going to announce the opening for next year's scholarships. So if you would like to apply, it's a merit-based scholarship. You look at of course, your academic work, but it's very important for us to see your involvement in Armenian community affairs. So if you're interested, please apply. You'll hear it on our Facebook page, on our website, and probably in the newspaper, or any number of media sources will announce it. So this year we awarded 5 scholarships across the country, and every year it's a different amount, but I encourage you to apply. It's one of our most active programs. So that's all I wanted to say, and I wish you a very good conference. I'm sorry, but I have to leave in a few minutes. I actually got a ticket in Glendale, and I have a court hearing to go to. So Bridget, thanks so much for announcing.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. So let's rock and roll. So we will start. Please introduce yourself, our wonderful speakers.
Okay, let's do it. Easier. And
Hello, everyone. I'm Arno Akobian. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and you should be very careful because by the end of this, you might want to be one too. So listen to what I have to say. I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad. I went to Loyola Law School. I got a JD, and then I got a LLM in tax law, which I thought I'd never use. And then right when I became a criminal defense attorney, I got a tax fraud case, and so it worked out. So yeah, that's me.
My name is Alec Giragosyan. I am a member of the Bar Association, and I'll talk about our mentorship reception this Thursday. But I practice municipal law. I went to UCLA for law school, went to UC Irvine for undergrad, and I won't talk about municipal law now because I'm sure I'll get some questions for Bridget.
My name is Lara. I attended UCLA for undergrad and Loyola Law for law school, and I practice family law, and that's all I practice.
Wonderful.
And I'm a member of the Army Bar Association.
And I think just one thing to add, what's unique about this group, I think, is that we're all pretty much fresh grads, so you're not going to get the perspective of I don't know, some associate that's been at 10 years or a partner. You're going to get it from someone that graduated 2 or 3 years ago. When did you graduate?
2015, but you can't tell. That's kind of why I have the beard, because you look a lot older, and the older you are, you know, the more responsibility you get, you know, AKA you can charge more money. So yeah, the beard makes me look older.
Yeah, I'm 2015 as well. A lot of
2014.
Thank you. So next question. Could you describe one of your typical work days?
I'll start it off. One of the cool things about criminal defense is there is no typical work day. Every single day is different. You know, you wake up anywhere from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. depending on what courthouse you're going to go to. That's the most important part. You're never in the office. You're always going to court, talking to people, mixing it up. And so if you're a mover and a shaker like that, you know, you should consider criminal defense. So yeah, you go to court, you make your appearances by noon, and then from like noon to 2, noon to 3, I leave open because emergencies pop up with clients all the time. You know, I call myself a firefighter because I'm always putting out fires. And then after that, you go to jails and you visit your clients in jail. You know, you talk to them. Cool stuff happens in jail. I see Suge Knight all the time. You see this guy, that guy. And funny, interesting things happen along the way. And then you meet with clients, answer a bunch of phone calls, chase after a bunch of clients, get paid, go to your client's house. And yeah, so pretty much, and especially when you're the boss, you can change it up even more and do whatever you want. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
So in municipal law, also, it's pretty dynamic. I rarely do the same thing twice. I'm a third year now, and I've hardly done the same thing twice. And the practice is very mixed. You do civil law, there's a lot of litigation, there's a lot of contractual work, and there's a lot of regulatory work, which are the 3 main areas of law. Outside of criminal, I don't do any criminal. And so I like that because it's kind of frustrating. You never really master anything, but you get to learn everything if you do municipal law. Like, so for example, just within the past 6 months, I had First Amendment abortion issues at the cities that we work with. I had public nudity issues, and I had issues with like bears. Sorry.
You have public nudity issues? No.
I know who represent me if that's ever.
That's right, exactly.
So not to mirror what they're saying, but it's true. The first few years, everything is such a new process to you that you don't really walk away from a work week thinking, God, I was so bored. I did legal research the whole day and just wrote a bunch of memos. It's not like that. There are days where you end up being thrown into an ex parte that for a case you know nothing about, and you just have to put in the hours, prepare. And the reason why it's not a typical workday is because it's not just doing what law school prepares you to do. You end up interacting with clients and opposing counsels. Like, I was yelled at by a 72-year-old family law attorney this morning for nothing at all, but it's just you face issues that you don't expect. And so I don't think there's such a thing as a typical workday, especially for an associate who's been practicing just for like 3 years up to this point. But once you get older, I think you see so many of the same things coming up over time that maybe at that point becomes like a typical workday. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So how many active cases and or clients do you work with at one time?
Right now I have 55 open cases, And with each case, you're not just sitting with your client, but you're dealing with your client's mom, dad, brother, sister, baby mama, friends, anyone who's interested. So phone is ringing off the hook all the time. And if you wanted to, you could be on the phone all day, every day, you know, so yeah, a lot of people.
Municipal, we have cases because I do litigation. We also have like issues. So for example, we have an issue with like the California Voting Rights Act right now. We're being sued. Sorry, litigation hasn't begun, but there's a possibility that we might be sued under the California Voting Rights Act. So there's a bunch of issues like that pop up that we have to devote time to. So open issues and cases, I'd say about like 30.
So number of cases that only I'm handling is 32, but then I'm also assigned to cases with the partners because they're more complex cases that I can't handle just, you know, having practiced only for 2.5, 3 years. So total, I would say between like 40 and 50 probably.
How many hours do you work in a typical week?
Never stops. You're on all the time. One of the things that I do is I wear a suit 7 days a week, 24/7, everywhere I go, including the beach. If I go to the beach, I'm in a suit. If I go to a football game, I'm in a suit. Because that's how I want everyone to think of me when they think of Arno in their mind, just the guy in the suit who's always ready to go at all times. And and if honestly, you can think of every interaction as potentially work because every person is a potential client or they know someone who might be. And so, yeah, but I work 7 days a week, like weekends, all jail visits, client meetings during the week, court, paperwork, client meetings, everything else. And so, yeah, 7 days a week.
But I think it's also important to note that you work for yourself, right?
Yes.
You have yeah, so that's different.
I have my own firm. We'll get to that later, how I recommend everyone to do that as soon as possible. But yeah.
So I don't work for myself. I work for a law firm. I have to meet 1,800 hours billable. I don't know if everyone's familiar with billable hours. It's actually like a lie. It's not 1,800, it's way more. For me personally, to bill 8 hours in a day, which is my goal, I have to work about 11. I'll be at work for about 11. So there's a lot of administrative things you have to do, things you can't bill for, that, you know, you just have to do to get done your 8 hours.
What they're saying is 100% correct. So I don't own my own law firm either. I work at a family law firm, and it is nonstop. And family law is different in the sense that weekends, like people still continue to have problems. There's a child custody exchange that does not happen. You get a cell phone, you get a call on your cell phone from the emergency line of the office, and there's a storm happening, and you have to do your job. You cancel everything. You have to go in and just handle because that's what they're paying you to do. I think the first year wasn't as bad work hour wise, just because they didn't trust me as much with big cases. So it's little things here and there that you would do. But now that it's my third year, and you guys will see this too, you'll be trusted more with bigger projects, more responsibilities. So work hours, I mean, I would say if you only work 40-hour weeks, then you're not being trusted enough to give, like, for them to give you more and more work. It's going to be a lot of hours, but again, it's worth it because the first 5 years, you should work as much as possible to learn as much as possible because you're motivated, you have the energy to do it, and it will work out in the end for you. And it's for yourself, you're investing in your future. So don't let the hours scare you because it's for your own benefit that you're working this hard.
Thank you. Describe a difficulty you encountered starting out in the practice of law.
Just stress, honestly, and I don't know if you'll ever get over that. It's just you're dealing with people's lives, and that's partly why you have to work so much. You know, if you're a good attorney, you care, and you can't just let something go when it's time to go. You put in the extra effort, and then you get to meet people's families and their kids and, you know, their parents, and that makes it real for you, the consequences of what happens, because people's lives are in your hands. They've entrusted you, and so the stress is a big deal. and just figuring out ways that you're going to cope with it so you don't get overstressed.
Yeah, trying to manage everything is really hard actually. If you're working like an 11-hour day, trying to make time to go to the gym and have like a life outside of work is pretty challenging. So it really depends on like who you work for and how you work. My first job was like horrible. I was like very depressed. I didn't have time for anything. I left that job in like 6 months. I'm at my new firm. I love it. Like people are nice. They're very flexible. I don't work on weekends. I put in hours during the week, so I don't have to work on weekends. So I find like it's more manageable now.
I think professionally, one of the difficulties I first encountered was procedural stuff that I did not learn out of law school. And family law is so like you're in court and you don't expect it. You don't, what example can I, so the second time I ever went to court, I was overly prepared for everything. Like I was too prepared almost. And then the judge out of nowhere says, oh, perfect. So did you guys end up going to the DSO for this? I had no idea that DSO stands for Daily Settlement Officer. So I had to look at him and bite my tongue because I hate not knowing an answer to a question and said, I'm sorry, sir, what, Your Honor, what is a DSO? And there's attorneys who practice family law sitting in the department who saw me have to ask that. But so I think procedural things, little things that come with time and experience, you sense a frustration in yourself because we all have a type of personality where we want to be overly prepared and detail-oriented because that's what law requires. But just not being frustrated at yourself for knowing certain things, fostering that confidence for you to be able to just keep doing you, and time management. Time management is so, I think it becomes an art form that you practice, that you master through time. Being able to say to someone, yes, I will see you Thursday night at 7 for that mixer, and then you have to cancel because someone is crying because, I don't know, they didn't get their child support or spousal support payment this week. It's a lot of balancing and just having the confidence to keep going through it and know that everything will work out.
Can you recount a funny story from your work that's illustrative of your practice?
I have a few funny stories. One time we're at the office, so I didn't go off and start my own firm immediately. I worked for about a year with another attorney who I'd worked with for actually years in law school. But this was his client. We're in the office. This guy comes in. It's for like this sexual assault case, and we're reading it, and my boss is like, Mr. Hernandez, this says that you touched your wife's niece on her couch on Thursday, and then is that true? And then he looked at us. He's like, it says that? And he's like, getting kind of happy, and we're getting kind of happy because like, oh, they're lying. And then he's like, we got this. Guaranteed, they're lying. That was my couch. It wasn't his wife's couch. Never mind the other stuff, but I mean, that's indicative of what I do because, like, I have a client, it was a credit card fraud case, and, like, okay, they say that on this date you were here and you pulled out this money from there, and again, he's like, amazing they said that because guaranteed I wasn't there. Next page, it's a color picture of it, at the ATM taking money out, and so that happens all the time with clients. They have bad memories.
I feel like criminal cases are a lot more interesting than civil cases in general. But working at the city, you get like very random things. Like I said bear earlier, like I wasn't kidding. There was a case with the bears. To give you the facts here, an old lady calls the city, and she's like, I'm hearing breathing in my house, and like so we're on the phone with her, and we're like, call 911. I don't know why you're calling the city. She's like, she's like, I'm looking around, and then she's like, I went outside, I didn't see anything, and then I looked under the house. There's a bear hibernating underneath her home in the city of Sierra Madre. It's one of our clients. If you know where Sierra Madre is, it's like above Pasadena. So we're like, oh, that's kind of serious. So the city calls us, their city attorneys. They're like, what should we do? We're like, first of all, don't touch it because that's protected by the state. Because it's a regulatory issue there. The city can't do anything to the bear. You can't like tranquilize that and put it back in the wild. So we called the state, the department, I think it was like Fish, Game and Wildlife or something, and we told them like, hey, there's this bear here, and you guys need to like do something about it. They're like, oh, okay, well, what is it doing? We're like, it's hibernating right now. They're like, oh, okay, so it's not bothering anyone. I'm like, no, but it's like it'll wake up, and then they're like, okay, they're like, well, I guess you can't wake up a bear during hibernation, or else it'll like starve to death. I didn't know that. So they're like, call us back when it wakes up. Like, I can't believe that was the answer, but we couldn't do anything about it, so we just left it. 2 months later, we get a call from the same lady. She's like, hey, that bear is woke up. So apparently, then we get calls from other neighbors because it's like swimming in their pools, it's like eating out of their trash cans. So we call them back up again. We're like, okay, guys, the bear's awake now. We need you to do something. They're like, oh, okay, well, what's it doing? Like, it's swimming in people's pools, it's eating out of trash cans. Like, oh, is it bothering anyone? I'm like, guys, no, you can come and you get this bear. So eventually, it's just weird. Like, it worked out on its own. The bear got tired of the lady's house and like walked up the mountain and left us alone. But like, that's like a random issue that you will only get working for a public agency like the city.
My funny story, it's funny and sad at the same time. You guys will see why. So I'm gonna call this story the $14,000 haircut story. So, mom, who is very type A personality, has twins, calls and says, I just picked up my 2 boys, her darling apples of her eye boys, and saw that dad, without asking permission, has cut their long, beautiful hair. She was growing out their hair without asking for permission, and she flipped about this. I want us to go to court about this tomorrow. I want sanctions. She wanted the world, and I have to sit down and you have to explain to this woman that you're going to end up spending like $4,500 minimum for me to prepare ex parte papers, try to settle this when you can't really settle it. What's done is done. And you're going to get yelled at by the judge because there's no emergency here. But she was adamant. And sometimes you're put in a position where you cover yourself in writing and tell her, I implore you not to do this. I don't recommend this. So that way you're covered because it's in writing. And she still pushed us. So I had to prepare ex parte papers about why a haircut could be an emergency for these 2 boys. And it turned out to cost, and I call it the $14,000 haircut because after we were promptly denied on our motion, opposing counsel used this as a reason to prepare a motion for sanctions for us abusing the process of law. And so I had to prepare responsive papers for that and go to court for that too. And so a $17, $20 haircut became the $14,000 haircut. So funny and sad.
What suggestions do you have for the students in attendance regarding starting their legal career?
The number one piece of advice that I have to give, and no one does this even though I've told 100 people, but I did this, and that's how I know no one did it because no one else was doing it. Go to court every single day, federal court preferably. You can go on this, you can Google Central District Court of California, look on the calendar. Every single morning when I was in law school, I would go on the calendar, every single judge, and I would look up what cases people are doing for each courtroom, courthouse, and then I would actually go. And that way you meet people, you find out who is who in your field, and just being able to rattle off the big names in whatever field you want to work in. That's important. You know, knowing all the judges that you're going to be working with, and then knowing what they look like, what cases they've worked on. You can go on Pacer, it's the federal database, look up their motions, and then when you see these people and you say, hey, you were here in this courtroom last week, and next week you're going to be here, and by the way, I read that brief you submitted, and they're like, wow, who are you? And well, and especially if you have a look that people, you know, recognize, like that's, again, when I have the beard, you see me once somewhere, you're going to remember me. You see me 2 or 3 places, you're like, wow, this guy's everywhere. And then I would carry like my Loyola notebook with me, and I'd have it displayed so people could see, and then that way prosecutors, judges, everyone could like, who is this guy in the suit, you know, randomly dropping in. Oh, you're a law student? Then they want to talk to you. And when you're in law school is the best time to do this because, you know, you want to get I don't care if it's civil litigation or whatever you do, if it has to do with going to court, if they see that you're actively doing that, because the top litigators, you know what they did? They did that when they were in law school. and it shows that you care, you learn a lot about the process. Seeing someone in trial especially, it's kind of like a bond because you develop, because it isn't recorded, and once it's done, and so, but if you've seen a big time attorney win a case at trial, then every time you see that person, you can remind them and, you know, talk them up if they're around other people as well, but it shows them that you're a go-getter, and it familiarizes yourself with the entire process, and go to court. And people don't like doing it because A, it takes a lot of time, it's boring, you gotta pay for parking, you gotta pay for your lunch, but watch an entire trial from beginning to end, from jury selection to reading the jury verdict. That's an invaluable experience, and the top level people, let's say you want to intern at a big firm or work for a big firm, you submit your application, it goes to HR, no one hears from it again, you know, you're never going to talk to the top partners or wherever, or even if you work there for a few years, you won't meet the higher level guys. You know why? Because the higher level attorneys are in court, and so that's where you want to be. Go to court, inform yourself of who's who, and good things will happen. I mean, whether it's job or anything else, go to court.
So my field is different. I don't really go to court. When we do go to court, we're acting as prosecutors. He's acting as defense. So I don't really have that issue. For me, I would say though, on his point, it is really helpful to know people. My job, I went to a really good school. I had like decent grades. Still, when I graduated, I was unemployed. And so for 6 months after that, 6 months even after passing the bar, I was unemployed. And my job came through the person at the internship I was working at after the bar. So honestly, like so many of these jobs come through connections, and I highly recommend like getting involved now, like getting to know people, because if you leave a good impression, for example, us three here are like all junior attorneys, right? But if you interact with us, we'll know who you are. And then if you leave a bad impression on us, we're also going to remember that. If you leave a good impression on us, we're also going to remember that. One day, who knows, your resume may or may not come across, or someone might ask us, what do you know about this guy? And I'm going to tell them honestly, like, I like him, I don't like him. So.
The advice I would give is not to sweat the small stuff and to lose sight of like the big goal. I can't tell you, someone who only got A's in life, and then I get my business association's exam grade back and I got a B+. Like, I think that's all I talked about for 3 weeks with everyone. And I was just the emotional wreck. And every interview I've been to, not one time have they asked me to see a transcript or to see grades, because they don't care. All they want to see is what experience you've had. Oh, you externed with Judge Silverman, who they happen to have a hearing in front of in 2 weeks. Tell us everything about your experience then. Things like that are, so I would say, starting out, now that you're still in law school, you should just ask for externships, things that you will be able to, in a resume, show them that you're valuable and that you would be an asset should they hire you. So if you are on law review, like, great, like, try to work hard and get something published, because that's a big deal to them. If you have never been in a court environment, which I have never been, get an externship, go meet with the judges, talk to them, and they'll see what type of personality you have and would want to hire you even after that. I know someone who externed for a judge, and he was so great at what he did that after he graduated law school, he got a job at the courthouse, like being his personal like life handler for every single case, writes out the tentative rulings. So I do think what Arno said is correct. If you're not going to go to court, to at least see in the field that you want to have a future in how it works out. And it ties back to my answer from earlier, where procedurally you should know how certain things are done, because you'll have such an upper hand when you first start out. So yeah. Don't worry about grades too much. I mean, study, obviously, but don't let that make or break you, because they really don't care. They just want to see how great you are in research and writing, and are you going to be able to have an entire motion done in 2 days because you have experience doing that.
What qualifications do you seek in an intern?
In an intern?
In an intern. If you were to have an intern.
Like a law court.
Yes.
A go-getter, I'm not really seeking interns just because it's work for you, and in criminal law, people want you to handle their case. When they hire you, it's kind of like when you go to a surgeon, the person you consult with, you want them to do actual surgery. You don't want them to hand it off to someone else. It's a similar thing. But I was gonna actually say, because there's a question about successful qualities. Can I answer this next? I don't know. In an intern, like, don't be annoying, be likable. Honestly, that's the biggest thing, because if someone's gonna spend time with you, they want you to be likable. So have funny stories, be an interesting person, and make life easier for them. Like, don't be noticed too much, but be there when you need to be.
It's a difficult question. Oh, go ahead.
And refer cases. That's the number one way. Like, you want to get a big internship or job for that matter? If you have a big case, you can refer that. We'll get you there.
Okay, it's a difficult question for junior attorneys to answer because we're not in a position to hire people. But what I would hear all the time is from people who gave me the internships was, we just want to hang out with someone cool. Like senior attorneys would just say that to me, we just want to hang out with someone that we like to hang out with. Because, I mean, they're not really going to know, there's no way you can know from a short interview what this person's qualities are, like how hard they work. Like, you're not going to know these things. So what they will know is, do we like you or don't we like you?
I'll explain my answer to this through a story because I'm a very storytelling type of person. So it's exactly what they just said. Is the truth. You have to be likable because in this field somehow you become morphed and desensitized towards the fact that you're dealing with human beings because they just become the case. They literally embody the issues that their cases represent. So you forget that human aspect. So when the first like legal law clerk position that I interviewed for, they asked me, why do you want to get into family law? And I said like my perfect 4 answers that I already had prepared for. And then they said, okay, but why? We get all that, but you could say all that for any field, but why family law specifically? And I panicked because what more do you want me to say? And so I went into personality and I said, if there was a family law flavored cupcake, that's the one I would eat. Like, I think I love the issues, they speak to me, like, and then I looked at them and I said, I don't know what more you want me to tell you. And they started cracking up and they offered me the job there. So I think you have to remember that they're just looking for someone who, yes, is a go-getter and can write those mean discovery, meet and confer letters, but also as a human being that they want to be able to work with and get along with day in, day out.
And have a great answer to that question of why this, why that. Like, for criminal defense, for example, my answer is, all my life growing up, I've had a loud voice, and people, teachers, parents, everyone said, Arno, use your indoor voice. But then you go to law school and, Socratic method, you see people, you get called on, and you're taking notes, and then I couldn't hear everyone. And then I go to court and I see people who have public defenders and they're trying to talk to the public defender is shooing them away, and it's like their voice isn't heard. And so one day it clicked, it's like, well, what am I doing? I'm lending my voice, my loud voice, to people whose voices aren't heard, either by society, by the DA, by the courts, whomever. And so that's my really good, and you hear that, you're like, oh, right? And so you need to have one of those, and it's a unique take on it. Or another reason why is because I think it's an honor and a privilege when someone in their darkest hour, when you go to a criminal defense attorney, it's not for good reasons usually. You or someone has been accused of doing something and you're sad, you're scared. And so when someone reaches out their hand to you in their darkest hour and they ask for your help, I think that's a beautiful thing. And it's like we become a team, we're going together with our head held high to court, to war, whatever it is. And that's really why I like criminal defense. All my life, also growing up, people get bullied, I would stand up for them, and I really like taking on the side of the individual and just have a unique answer that will help you get internships. Yeah.
I wanted to add something really quickly. So I got a phone call from a friend recently who wanted to refer her case to someone, and she gave me the issues of the case. And I said, oh, actually, from law school, I know Arno who would handle this for you. And she said, okay, am I going to enjoy working with him? Like, how's he like? And I said to her, I'm like, well, anytime we were in the library studying for finals or midterms, and you hear the loudest laugh known to mankind reverberating like the library walls, I'm like, that's Arno. And I said, he's very intense, but he's on top of his game, like, and you'll have a good remembering an experience you would remember. And she, like, after they had worked on that case, she called me and she said, thank you, like, it was a blast, were the words she used. So
Case dismissed, you know?
yes. So definitely be likable and worth remembering.
Next question. Can you recommend any courses I should take? Did you participate in any clinics, honors programs, etc. while in law school?
Southwestern, just like Loyola, has classes taught by, I'm assuming this, but I'm sure they do, by working attorneys. And so when I was in law school, if there was a class taught by a federal prosecutor, I was there in that class, and I was very well noticed and liked. And now I run into them in federal court, and that helps me out. Judges, if you have classes that are taught by judges, definitely take those classes. And then all the trial advocacy stuff that you can take is very valuable. So class-wise, that's it. The practical courses and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, the practical courses were like the most useful. Although a lot of my practice isn't even stuff you cover in law school. A lot of that stuff is just, you're gonna do it first, second, third year, you just have to learn it, because like law school does not prepare you, whatever law school you go to does not prepare you for the practice of law. It gives you like the very bare minimum basics, but there's so much that goes into it. But the more practical courses, like your contracts comes up once in a while, civil procedure comes up once in a while. Those matter.
So yeah, obviously if you're interested in a particular field of law, take the courses related to that. Like I took marital property, family law. They offered a type of course where you just get to work with someone for free. That was great. But overall, honestly, if I'm being honest, I would say take the courses that you know nothing about, that are courses that are topics that are tested on the bar exam. Because if I didn't take corporations law during second year, I know that come the bar exam, when I saw the words quorum and I don't know, vesting stock schedules, I'm gonna panic. So if there are fields of law where you know nothing about, I would say take it so that when it comes time for the bar exam, you don't feel like you're playing catch up and you're ahead of the game. Because at this point, your number one concern should be just passing the bar, and so you don't have to go through it more than once.
Considering all of the people that you've met in your field, what personal attributes are essential for success?
You have to be a happy person. If you're not a happy person, people can tell, and people won't want to be around you and give you what you want. Secondly, you have to have a big ego. You got to think highly of yourself, because no matter what kind of law you do, like, you get worn down throughout the day. People yell at you, this and that. My job, I start off the morning here, and then judges yell at you, prosecutors yell at you, cops are yelling at you, clients are yelling at you, and so your ego is constantly being worn down. And if you don't start off with a huge ego in the morning, like by the end of the day, you're gonna, be crying. And then also, you have to have a big personality. I think no matter what field I've seen, the leaders in those fields have big personalities, and you have to love what you do. You can't fake that. People can tell. I feel like one of the reasons why I do well is because people can tell how much I love what I do, and they just people want to be around that. Happy people who love what they do. Doing a lot of pro bono work, having a big heart is actually good for business, because people are so appreciative of you helping them out, when, especially if, attorneys have a certain reputation, money hungry, this and that, and you come out and you help them, you're like, no, I tell people, I'm Armenian, you're Armenian, what's the point of having, young Armenian criminal defense attorneys if we can't help each other out? And then, you'll get them on the next time. But, willingness to actually do good, and that's quality in a lot of successful people that I've seen, giving back. I coach a mock trial team, AGPU Pasadena High School, because I did mock trial in high school when I was in high school, and so it was a great experience. And it just so happens, for example, that the other coach on the team happens to be a top prosecutor downtown. Is that why I did it? No, but I mean, that's very helpful. And so anything that you do things that you enjoy, and that highlight your best qualities. Know what your best qualities are. I mean, not everyone can have a big personality, or the other good thing about having a big ego, like I've always liked attention, and so it's kind of like you have to tailor your job to your personality. And I love being in court because everyone's forced to listen to you, you know? I look around, there's all these eyeballs people looking at me, I like it. Other people don't. So know what your strengths are, what you like, and just be a happy, good person with energy. You know, I don't agree with a lot of stuff Donald Trump says, but when he brought up the term like high energy person, like that's a big part of it. No one wants to be around someone who makes them feel tired when they're around them. And so if you're enthusiastic and passionate, that'll get you very far in your legal career.
Obviously, there's no one factor. There's lots of factors, but the one that rings true to me, because it helped with my difficulties, is perseverance. Honestly, that's the first internship I had after the bar was with the city of Glendale, and that was a cool job. I really liked it, and I thought, all right, municipal law, because I've done a lot of different public agencies, but municipal, working for the cities, were like by far the most interesting. And so I took a municipal law job, paid decent, but like I was miserable. Like the hours sucked, like the bosses were horrible, and I was there for like 6 months, and I was like, I'm gonna leave. Forget law, like I'm done. This is like the least happy I've been in my entire life. And then, thanks to like a mentor I have, I just kept applying. Like she's like, don't give up, just keep trying. I kept applying until I landed this job, which is like super great. Like the pay is much better, the hours are great, the bosses are nice, people I work with are great. So finally, I'd like to practice some municipal law again, and all due to perseverance.
You have to be everything that you could possibly be, basically. Detail-orientedness, being aggressive, but not to the point where nobody wants to work with you. Like, we have a list at my firm of attorneys where if we get a case and opposing counsel is that one of those people, like, we won't take the case, because it's so easy to become. Don't confuse overzealously, like, and diligently representing your client with being aggressive to the point where no one wants to work with you. Mm-hmm. There are ways to handle things. I was in a mediation a couple of weeks ago, and opposing counsel, I'm very prepared. She was in her late 60s. I don't think she cared that much because she's been going through it for so long, and I'm just young, motivated. And in front of the mediator, she said something like, I get this energy, because you're young, but this is a serious mediation. And I looked at her and I thought, I'm the most serious I've ever been. So, and the mediator actually called this woman who's like in her 60s and called her out on it and said, like, I won't, and she told me afterwards during a phone call that I will never work with that attorney again because I was flabbergasted at how rude she was. So again, don't confuse being aggressive and being super pro your client with being so horrible that you can be a very successful attorney for your client, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean anyone is going to refer cases your way because they hate you as an attorney or a person.
Yeah.
Last question. What do you do on your spare time?
I don't have a whole lot of spare time. When I do, it's usually watching sports or something involving sports, going to a sporting event. I'm really into that. But I try and meet new people and get new clients. I'm just constantly thinking about that and developing relationships. And that's very important to me, building relationships with your clients, because trust isn't automatically given. And you should trust your attorney the most of anyone in life. I have a belief, but you have to develop that trust, and so that requires spending time with them, getting to know them, Yeah, I don't do many fun things as much because my job is so fun. I don't go to the movies anymore because I see it every single day. I mean, it's true what they say. I used to think it was BS when they said, love what you do, you never have to go to work a day in your life. But I mean, when I talk about work, I get energized. At the end of the day, because I love what I do, and so, yeah, on my spare time, I will do some more work.
Alright, I don't share that enthusiasm. I like my job, but I'm not dedicated in the way Arnold's dedicated to it. Like I said, I spend about like 11 hours, and I'm not like Arnold. He's in court, he's wanting to speak. I'm in front of a computer for 11 hours. So, like, I need to move. And so I try to go to, like, my work week is pretty stable. I know my hours, I know what I can get done. So I try to go to the gym during the work week. On the weekends, I make time for, like, whether it's girlfriend or I like to do like a lot of community-based stuff. So, for example, the Armenian Bar Association, and those things pay off because, like, just through the Armenian Bar Association, just having known so many attorneys, although I don't represent individuals, I represent public agencies. I still feel like if I was ever unemployed again, I don't think I would struggle as much as I struggled in the past.
I mean, just normal human stuff. Like Friday night, I went and watched Blade Runner. Saturday, I was out at work. Sunday, I was at work. It's just sometimes you sleep during the day when you don't have to go to work. Right now, it's just kind of, there are no special things I do on my spare time. It's just like trying to make the time to see your friends or working on Saturday so that you can make it to the bridal shower on Sunday, like things like that. It's just trying to balance it as much as possible.
And we are also the most overworked group of attorneys you'll ever meet because we're fresh and we're cheap.
Yeah.
Our hourly is cheap.
The first 5 years, you're going to be tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. So, unfortunately, one of the guest speakers couldn't join us today, but his contact info is still on the screen. I think Alexon wanted to say a few words before we open it up to open forum.
Yeah, so.
My phone number is different.
Okay.
That's the cool part about being criminal defense lawyer, by the way. If you do go to a party, everyone who meets you, they either almost had a DUI, they're gonna have a DUI later, their friend has a DUI, so they all want your number. And that's helpful. You never need an excuse again for asking for someone's number, giving your number out, you know? Yeah.
So what is your number?
687.
818?
Yeah.
687
5102.
5102.
Yeah.
Are there any other changes to anyone? No, it's official.
So that's my firm's number. If you guys like had any questions or whatever, like I can write my cell phone number down.
What's your cell phone number?
310.
See how it works?
So just my quick announcement was that this Thursday, the Armenian Bar Association is having its annual mentor-mentee fall reception at Aaron Fox. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's like a big firm in downtown. We know a couple of attorneys there, so they gave us the building for the night. And the purpose of the event, so we have this mentorship program where we pair up law students with practicing attorneys. That program is, we have this reception for members of that program, but it's also open to any attorneys or law students that want to attend. And we just update people on like what programs the Bar Association offers for students and what programs the Bar Association is currently offering for the community at large. So if you're interested, it's at 5:30. I believe Bridget has sent out.
Yes, so you should have received an email yesterday as well as the original email a week ago. RSVPs, like you mentioned, are due today. You email the Armenian Bar, so just check out your ALSA email and you should have that information.
Yeah, try to RSVP as soon as possible just to get through security.
Yes.
One last thing I want to leave everyone with is try out as many different fields of law as you can. Don't be afraid to quit. You know, a lot of people say stick it out, this and that. I don't believe in that. I think you should try as many different things to know what you don't want to do. And then look at, again, your personality traits and characteristics. Maybe it's not the field of law, it's how it's practiced. Like, again, I can't sit in an office all day. That's not my thing. I have to be moving all day, and so that's one of the things that you should consider in choosing a field of law. And you've worked too hard for too long, taken on too much debt to not like what you do, and not even just like, but love what you do. You know, a lot of times I tell people this, and I believe it, but I feel like God made me to, you know, defend His children, to be a criminal defense attorney. And I believe that. And whatever field you go into, if you can feel that way, then you're doing the right thing. So, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, well, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for joining us.
And if anyone's friends get in trouble, just mention this talk, it's 50% off.
First time was free.
First time, you're right, see, that's another way to go.
You've already-
And if you go to like a birthday party, you're like, it's your gift, you know, whatever happens tonight, 50% off. Yeah.